Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Max Talks Movies. I'm your host for this spin-off YouTube channel. My name is Max Dinnenberg. Today, we'll be reviewing on the first episode of Max Talks Movies, The Wrong Missy, a Netflix original film that came out today, the day I'm filming this, Wednesday, May 13th, 2020. The film's directed by Tyler Spindle, and it stars David Spade, Lauren Lapkus, Nick Swartzen, Rob Schneider, and Jackie Sandler. The film is about David Spade, who meets the woman of his dreams at an airport and invites her to his company's corporate retreat in Hawaii. But he realizes he's sent the invite to the wrong person, who he met on a blind date 3 months prior, played by Lauren Lapkus, who's these two main actors are the main stars of the film. How this show works is I'll be telling you my positives, my negatives, and getting to you my score of this Netflix original film. And then at the end, stay tuned for the end. I have some big announcements, obviously, towards the $1 Million Podcast and the future of this YouTube channel itself. So stay tuned for the end of this movie review. So first, my positives. David Spade. Now, yes, not a shocker here. David Spade is really good in the movie. Not just his comedic delivery, but his facial motions towards all the characters is still really funny. Everyone loves him from movies like Tommy Boy and The Emperor's New Groove and grown-ups movies, and there's a lot more I could say about David Spade. But the last film I saw him in was this director, Tyler Spindle, in one of the worst movies of 2018 that I got to see on Netflix called Father of the Year. I did not like that movie. It wasn't really David Spade's fault, just really terrible writing and terrible performances other than David Spade in that movie. In this movie, though, there is way better comedy. I never laughed really in Father of the Year. I did chuckle a couple times, and that goes towards the Happy Madison relationships coming back to this film, like Rob Schneider, Nick Swartzen, and of course our lead here, David Spade. The first act, in my opinion, was also really strong. You really get a good introduction into who David Spade is, and you get a quick introduction to Missy, played by Lauren Lapkus, who's super over the top in this movie, which is good for the most part. I'll talk more about that performance in my negatives as well. The plot as well, there is some good comedic timing in there. I did chuckle multiple times in the movie, not as much as you would think, but just a chuckle, nothing crazy funny in the movie. But I did laugh when David Spade is on screen for the most part. Also, the film is only 89 minutes long. It's not even at the full hour and a half. So the movie does fly by. You don't really feel the time at all, which, as you'll hear me say on the $1 Million Podcast, is a positive for me for a movie. Now let's move towards the negatives in the film. Lauren Lapkus' character, which we already have talked about in the positive, she's doing a good job. The part that really struggles with her character, that her character gets really old as we progress through the movie. She really is the star of the movie, while you really are trying to focus on David Spade and him finding his possible true love with this Miss Maryland, I think is what it is, who he meets at an airport, who actually falls in love with David Spade. But this person, played by Lauren Lapkus as well, you're rooting for him to find the right person for his life. But as we progress through the different activities on this Hawaii trip, there's a shark scene that is interesting. There is a cliff scene. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but this is non-spoiler review. And the ending of the film also feels real flat because you really get all of the jokes from Lauren Lapkus. While she's really having a blast in this movie, her character doesn't click. She just doesn't click. And the more she's on screen, the more annoying she gets. And by the end of the movie, in my opinion, the way I watched the movie, I wasn't rooting for her character. I just wasn't. I was rooting for the other character, the Miss Maryland, because they, in my opinion, had way more in common. Now, yes, relationships don't need to go in that direction, but the way this movie was being told, they wanted you to root for David Spade and Lauren Lapkus to possibly become a couple by the end of this film. And for me, that didn't really come clear enough. Also, there were a lot of actors who I didn't know who are new actors who have pretty big roles in this movie do not hit well, especially the actor who plays David Spade's ex-fiance's new husband. Really, really weird performance, never funny. Thought he was really funny. He must have thought he was really funny because he was not funny as well. And also, the ending, the third act really collapses. The first two acts, as I said, the first act was really solid. The second act was kind of average, so we kind of got an average movie. And the reason why I spoiler for my score here, but I couldn't make this an average movie because the ending is really stupid. And there's a lot of stupid elements. And I get what I'm saying. In a movie like this, there are a lot of scenes where some of our characters, really mostly Lauren Blackus, should have been killed. I mean, there's a clip scene, as I said. If you think that a regular person can survive that scene, it's completely insane. There's a shark scene, as I alluded to earlier, where David Spade somehow escapes probably a death experience. And for me, I like comedies that do take those ridiculous moments and make them funny. For me, they weren't funny, and they felt just way too ridiculous on a whole other level. And while the movie was trying to be as grounded as it could be, there were still so many different plot elements that didn't allow it to be grounded. And my favorite comedies, man, they have great comedy. You get to really laugh with really fun characters, also having heart. And this movie really does go for it. Father of the Year did not try for heart. It was just trying to be a plain comedy. That's why I did not like Father of the Year. Now, this movie is an upgrade over Father of the Year. So if you've seen Father of the Year and you really hate it, I would recommend this film just on those values for this director. This is a much better film, in my opinion. I gave Father of the Year like a 1 out of 5. So the scale will go up for The Wrong Missy, but the film still isn't good. So the overall, I gave the film a 2 out of 5 stars, a 41%. I was fighting for this to be average because I did chuckle, but when I realized what the plot really was and how I wasn't rooting for these two people to come together at the end, really doesn't satisfy the ending that I wanted as a viewer of this movie. So if you're a person who, like me, who watched Father of the Year and you want to see David Spade, another Netflix movie that's a little bit better, hopefully, than Father of the Year, this movie is for you because, especially like me, I hated Father of the Year, and this movie is a complete upgrade. At least I laughed in this movie, and there were different characters who I really enjoyed. But if you're a casual movie fan and you just want to see a nice comedy movie with some good emotion, I wouldn't recommend this movie. It really depends on your audience. If you are a diehard David Spade fan, of course, check this one out. If not, I would probably stay away from The Wrong Missy. So now let's move on to the business part of the show today, and that is our announcements in general. So this is a spin-off show of the podcast that I am doing with Dylan Dayton called The $1 Million Podcast. We are doing that podcast twice a week, Thursdays and Saturdays. Should be up around 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, every Thursday and Saturday on YouTube. It's a 1 hour long show that we talk about sports, then we move into movie news, and then we move into professional wrestling, WWE like related topics. The Wrong Missy review, it'll be a shorter version of this that I will be doing on the show tomorrow for the Thursday podcast. So also check that out if you want to see my additional thoughts as well and see Dylan's thoughts on the movie. But in general, I really want you guys to really support this YouTube channel as a whole. Dylan and I are really trying to expand our grounds here in the YouTube sphere. Also, Dylan is also starting a gaming spin-off show that Dylan's doing by himself. He'll be giving you tips on video games. He'll be playing video games, recommending video games for you guys. So it's going to be a really fun show. Dylan's really excited about it, and I'm really excited about joining me here on Max Talks Movies. I'm a huge movie fan. I also write reviews. So, and I'll go into my social media right now before I close things out today. You can find me on Twitter at Dinenberg Max, capital D-I-N-E-N-B-E-R-G, Max. The D is the only capital. Then Max Dinenberg, one word, no caps, is how you can find me on both Instagram and Letterboxd. If you've not heard of Letterboxd, go to Letterboxd, follow me. The whole point of Letterboxd is that I get to write my reviews of all these films more in depth than this. And also you get to see my lists. We just ranked Star Wars and Mission Impossible on the $1 Million Podcast. If you want to see my other rankings as well, or my rankings as a whole year, of the whole year so far, you can also find The Wrong Missy on my Netflix original films list and my 2020 movies list. This is my 29th movie I saw this year. So basically every time there's a new release or a new Netflix original movie or anything on streaming services that's a new film, I'll be reviewing it on this channel, on this spin-off series. So like, comment, And please subscribe to the show. You'll get my show here, the Max Talks Movies. You'll get Dylan's gaming show. And you're going to also get the heart of our show, the $1 Million Podcast, which you can also get on Podbean. If you search us up, $1 Million Podcast, one word, you'll find us on Podbean for audio version. If you want us on YouTube, this is where you can find us here on YouTube. So like, subscribe, share, comment. What are your thoughts of The Wrong Missy? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Give your rating as well below, and I'll check you next time back here on Max Talks Movies.